Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. We want to, brothers and sisters, go over a presentation tonight, 5 p.m. Thank you for joining on for those who did. I want to also apologize for not doing it when it was scheduled last night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but having to postpone it to tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, about a day late. And I apologize for such. Brothers and sisters, what we want to do is go over history untold to the masses. The timing we'll be talking about will be focused in the biblical timeline from the era of King Ahab of Israel down to King Jehoiachin of Judah. What we will find out, brothers and sisters, is that this is during the era when there was a northern and southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was headed mainly by the tribe of Ephraim, for the most part. The capital, nonetheless, stayed within the land of Ephraim, even though, as we will point out, it moved from one city to the next to the next. The first capital being Shechem, all right? The second capital being the land of Tirzah, and the third and last capital of the northern kingdom being Samaria. So, brothers and sisters, these are things that we just want to go over and show for edification purposes. Okay, now we're going to start talking from the aspect historically of the northern kingdom. We will use certain biblical citations, and this video will not include a lot of external Hebrew. What I mean by that is we're not going to go scripturally a lot within the Hebrew, but we will, brothers and sisters, translate the names that we will be discussing and what we are going over. So, brothers and sisters, let us look at this. You have Omri. Omri means my sheaf, from the Hebrew word Omer, which means sheaf. Now, Omri was one of the kings of ancient Israel, and he was referred to by the Assyrians as Humri. All right. So just want to point that out for edification purposes. He was a general and he founded a dynasty. We're going to go over, as time goes on in this presentation, the dynasty that Omri founded. All right. We want to point out too that Omri was the sixth king after the divided monarchy. All right. He was king number 6, the sixth one. All right. He moved the capital to Samaria because, as we stated, the capital before that, brothers and sisters, was the land of Tirzah. And before that, the capital, brothers and sisters, was Shechem. All right. Mentioned by Misha. Now, this Misha you will find in the Bible in the book of, we're talking 2 Kings chapter 3. All right. Misha of Moab. Now, of some of the external nations, that is to say the people that's not of the Israelites, right? We're going to be talking about Moab more than many do speak of when speaking about this particular era, in due respect, all right? Because Moab, the Moabites, play an intricate role within the kingdom of Israel, though it wasn't for the benefit of the Israelites, all right? So now that is the era of what happened with Omri. The era we're talking in timeline, brothers and sisters, corresponds, if we will, to the 9th century BCE. Okay? We just want to point that out for edification purposes. Next, brothers and sisters, we're going to talk about this guy here, Ahab. Ahab, said in the language of Hebrew, is Ahab. Ak means brother, and Ab means father. So Ahab, brothers and sisters, means brother's father. All right? Built a palace. Now, brothers and sisters, the palace that he built, all right, has been found in part by archaeologists. For those who are into archaeology or biblical archaeology, if you will, you know that to already be the case, where they found images, stones, sadly, even of idols, brothers and sisters, that was within there. So that's something we want to point out for edification purposes. In the book of the scriptures, namely the book of Micah or Micah, it speaks, brothers and sisters, in regards that the statues, that is to say the idols, if you will, of Omri are kept. Now, in what we referring to as the palace that Ahab built in Samaria, this is in archaeology here, one of the things that was found. All right. This is something we want to go over and show for edification purposes in the land of Samaria. Now, brothers and sisters, Ahab fought against the Arameans. The Arameans, we know later on in history, were referred to as Syrians. All right. He was related to Jehoram. Now, let me explain that particular aspect, because you had two different kings in the biblical timeline named Jehoram. One was the king of Israel, one was the king of Judah. This Jehoram that Ahab was related to is the king of Judah. Okay? Ahab being a king of Israel. He was the husband of Jezebel and the father-in-law of Jehoram. All right? So that's something we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. Ahab also fought in a Karkar battle. That is dated to 850 or so BCE. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, the Karkar battle is mentioned by the Assyrian king Shalmaneser III. All right. You will find sometimes that some people may say Shalmaneser II, some say Shalmaneser III. They in Assyrian chronology seem to switch them up for whatever reason once it comes to talking about rulership and so forth and so on. But nonetheless, Ahab fought in the Karkar battle in the 9th century BCE. All right. Ahab or Ahab, all right, was associated with Carthage. Now, we know good and well Carthage in today's time is in a land in North African country called Tunisia. The people of Tunisia, namely they of Carthage, if we're talking about that era, his wife Jezebel is a great aunt to one of the women who was a ruler in there by the name of Dido, D-I-D-O. All right, for those into the history of that particular case. Now, all right, the Carthaginians, all right, established the town there in Tunisia. And lineally, they were of the tribes of Israel, such as Zebulun, Asher, Naphtali. And we must remember that there were Canaanites too among the people of, brothers and sisters, the Carthaginians. All right. As time went on, the Carthaginians were attacked, all right, by the people of the Romans. That takes you into the Punic battles. All right. Hamilcar, Hannibal Barca, who was his nephew, and so forth and so on. All right. So these are just things we want to point out, okay, for edification purposes, if we will. Now, brothers and sisters, let us continue. Ahab is mentioned by Shalmaneser III. All right. And that again is Shalmaneser III of Assyria. So we just wanted to go over the aspect of what we're talking about in this thing here, presentation here, all right, called what? History Untold to the Masses, part 2. Okay. Now, we spoke earlier, okay, about the palace that Ahab had built, right? That you see and mentioned in the scriptures, right? It was about 600 feet by 300 feet. Wasn't by today's standards, say, the biggest, nonetheless, but it was not the smallest either. Certainly in those days and times, and the building projects that those nations undertook. All right. So that's something we want to talk about for reason and purposes, if we will. Okay. Let us flip this one over, if we will, and go on, brothers and sisters. We're going to not only flip it, we're going to make it neater. We're going to not dispose of it, but remove it. And then if we have to use it again, it'll still be for usage. Okay? Now, here we see Yehu. Okay? Yehu, king of Israel. Now, he started a new dynasty, and we're going to talk further along concerning that particular case and that particular aspect, if we will. All right? Now, Yehu fought against Baal. Now, what do I mean by that and putting that in there? Yehu, king of Israel, invited everyone to a big party, if you will, for all the people that was into the worship of Baal. Now, Baal worship, sadly, was in the northern kingdom, heavily during the time of Ahab, and it continued on all the way into the time of Yehu, king of Israel, right? The unfortunate part, brothers and sisters, is that while Yehu was against the worship of Baal that Ahab had established, he still, in his own way, was worshiping idols like the Asherah. All right? So, the bloodshed that Yehu did going against the idol worshippers of Baal was then, in the book of Hosea, commuted to murder because Yehu wound up worshiping idols himself. So this is just something we want to go over and talk about for edification purposes. All right? Yehu killed Jehoram, who was his predecessor. And Yehu is mentioned by Shalom III. Now, brothers and sisters, all right, Shalmaneser III is, as we already pointed out, all right, in the 9th century BCE. Okay, he actually is mentioned inside of the Assyrian records, if we will. Okay, so for those who are in, if I can be heard, and if you care to put it in, press a 1. All right, for reason and purposes. Okay, after Yehu, we're going to now talk about Menahem. Still talking about the kings of Israel, right? Menahem or Menachem, all right, or we want to point out Yehu means the most high is he. All right, we want to point that out. Menahem, said as Menachem, means comforter or one who is of rest. Not sleeping rest, but comfort, like being comfortable rest. He slew his predecessor by the name of Shalom, and Menahem is mentioned by the king Tiglath-Pileser. He paid tribute, brothers and sisters, to the Assyrian king. All right, for those who are already familiar and acquainted with that history. He went and took from, say, 60,000 of the richest people in the northern kingdom of Israel and paid the Assyrians. What tribute was then is today referred to as rent, mortgage, car note, car payment, car insurance, health insurance, and so forth and so on. Whereas, heaven forbid, you don't pay, they don't take care of you. So what Menachem was doing basically was paying to sit there and keep the Assyrians away from him in an attack. All right? In layman terms, the Assyrian king Tiglath-Pileser, he had tribute, had the Israelites of the northern kingdom under tribute. So to avoid being besieged, you paid him. All right? Next we have here Pekah, Pequak, to take hold on in meaning. He slew his predecessor by the name of Pequakiah or Pekahiah. All right? He had conflict with Assyria because Tiglath-Pileser, who mentioned him, also speaks about how Pekah was against his own people. As pointed out, mentioned by Tiglath-Pileser. Now, what are we talking about? Yehu with Shalmaneser III of Assyria, right? That is the 9th century